A very good morning to all of you. As I stated, we shall be talking about this essay, Whose Imagined Community. This essay was published in the year 1996, after 10 years of the publication of Benedict Anderson's book. And this is available on the internet as well. It was published as a part of a journal at the same time, journal article, and later it is the part of a book chapter as well, a book as well. It is a chapter of a book, we can say. Now let's try to understand Chatterjee's views on nationalism first of all. He begins by stating that nationalism has once more appeared on the agenda of world affairs. It is in 1996 he talking about. Almost every day, state leaders and political analysts in Western countries declare that with the collapse of communism, now communism you might be knowing is a term used to refer to the government system of Soviet socialism. They use the term communism to refer to the collapse of. Means with the fall of Russia, Soviet socialism, they started thinking that it was the collapse of communism. So communism is an ideology based on Marxist thinking, Marxist ideology, and Russia had adopted this. But you might be knowing that Russia got divided into different small states, the nations, such as Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, etc. They refer to this particular collapse of Soviet socialism as the collapse of communism. And since then, they have started the state leaders, political analysts, and the political leaders. That's what he's trying to say. Excuse me. And even those who are involved in political analysis talk about this, and that has become a kind of daily talk every day. It has become the agenda. So they thought that communism is a kind of principal danger, the main danger to world peace, and is now posed by the resurgence of nationalism. Okay, communism is replaced by the resurgence of nationalism in different parts of the world. In India as well. These days, we have started talking about this nationalism and anti-nationalism. But this isn't the case only for today. It was the case in earlier decade as well. Since in this day and age phenomena has first to be recognized as a problem, the resurgence of nationalism in different parts of the world during that time was a remarkable thing. And he thinks that it has to be recognized, it has to be understood as a problem before it can claim the attention of people whose business it is to decide what should concern the public. So it has become a kind of business for some people. Okay, about to talk about nationalism, the remarkable aspects of nationalism. So what he says, nationalism seems to have regained sufficient notoriety. Notorious problem is something which is having negative impact, which has become troublesome. and it has to be liberated from the arcane practices of area specialists. In an essay or introductory essay of Vinay Lal as well, we come across this reference to area specialists, the people who are engaged in studying different parts of the world. They are called area specialists, and they have made this particular subject as a subject of general debate. So he thinks that this particular topic has to be freed, liberated from the arcane practice of area specialists. It should not remain restricted to these people only. So it has become a kind of agenda. So might be knowing agenda is a kind of issue which is done for the sake of propaganda, political agenda we say. So it has become the agenda of world politics. And because of that, it has hopelessly prejudiced the discussion on the subject. Means everyone comes up with some kind of prejudice. Prejudice means a presupposition, a preformed idea in the mind based on hearsay we can say. As you come to know about some people, about some groups of people, about certain political conditions, and there is no authentic evidence as such. And then we keep on talking about that. The Marathi word for prejudice is Purvagrah Dushit Bhavana. So it has brought a kind of prejudice in the discussion on the subject of nationalism. When nationalism has become a controversial issue, then he talks about the situation in the 1950s and 60s. During that period, nationalism was still regarded as a feature of the victorious anti-colonial struggles. So you might be knowing, when we talk about nationalism in India, it became very strong during the uh, independence movement of India because we were fighting against an enemy, an outside enemy, Britishers. So that's what he's talking about. During 1950s and during 1960s, many countries started fighting against the colonial powers, just like British, French, Portuguese colonial powers, and they started demanding for the freedom. Okay, and nationalism was associated with this particular struggle. Nationalism was still regarded as a feature of the victorious anti-colonial struggle in Asia and Africa. For example, in 50s, after India got its freedom in the year 1947, there onwards, nationalism was still dominant in India, in many African countries as well. But simultaneously, as the new institutional practices of economy and polity in the post colonial states were disciplined. For example, India got its constitution in the year 1950. On 26th February, we implemented, sorry, 26th January, we celebrate it as a Republic Day. There are such many countries, which started coming up with its own institutional practices of economy and polity. So they were disciplined and normalized under the conceptual rubrics of development and modernization. So we started talking about after we got the freedom, we started talking about modernization. we started talking about development. We refer to the collapse of Russian or Soviet Union. It took place in the year 1991. Okay. After that period, nationalism became a dominant subject. But what am I trying to state here is about the period of 1950s and 60s. Okay, what was happening in India? For example, we talk about the policies of Indian government after it got freedom from the British rule. So nationalism in that period was associated with the development of the nation, the modernization of the nation. So through these forms, nationalism was already being relegated to the domain of the particular histories of this or that colonial empires. So during this period, nationalism was simply associated with historical movement. For example, the historical fight of Indians against the Britishers, against the British rule. So that is what was nationalism for us. You must have read it in the books of history when we talk about a freedom struggle movement. Then we talk about nationalism, the nationalism of our martyrs, of our great leaders such as Bhagat Singh, then other means leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose. So they were nationalists in that way. Then later Indian National Congress started talking about nationalism. So it was associated simply to the historical struggle against the colonial power. So nationalism during that period, during the 1950s and 60s, was relegated. Relegated in a sense, had given a less important position because during that period, India or other such countries were inspired by these ideas of development and modernization. So in those specialized histories, defined by the unprepossessing contents of colonial archives. The emancipatory aspect of nationalism were undermined by countless revelation of secret deals. But gradually what happened? Nationalism directly was, disconnected from this emancipatory aspects of nationalism. Emancipatory means freedom moments. Emancipation means freedom from something. It became the kind of archive, but the nationalism and its aspects were undermined by different aspects, secret deals, manipulations, and the cynical pursuit of private interests. After that, it started. For example, what happened during the time of Indira Gandhi government in India, what happened in the other side in Pakistan. So gradually, nationalism was disconnected from our historical achievement, and it was associated with secret deals, manipulations. Manipulation means manipulating something, handling something for personal interest, and the cynical pursuit of private interest. Today, for example, Narendra Modi is criticized for his cynical pursuit of private interest. It is not a matter of today. It happened way back with many governments. By the 1970s, nationalism had become a matter of ethnic politics. We should underline this. Okay, so we think that the conditions have got worse today. It's not the case because of social media, because of TV channels. These things are being highlighted, and everyone has become a kind of expert to talk about. In those days, there were limited kind of mass media. For example, I told you only Doordarshan was the TV channel. No other channels were there. There was a kind of scarcity of newspapers, publications, and reading public was less. Now, with the spread of education and technology, social media, mass media, the things have changed. The awareness has increased. Therefore, we think like this. So the reason why people in the third world killed each other in many countries, third world means the countries like India, African countries, the countries which were ruled by the previous colonial powers like Britain, France, Portugal, what you call Portugal, etc. Spanish nations. No, many part. I we understood that the Latin America has has been ruled had been ruled by French colonies, Portuguese colonies. Therefore, there are many French people, speaking countries, Spanish speaking countries, etc. So this became a matter of ethnic politics in the third world, especially the countries which were ruled by the colonial powers. People started killing each other. What happens after the partition of India? So you have witnessed it. We have India and Pakistan have witnessed it. So sometimes in wars between regular armies, sometimes more disinterestingly in cruel and often protracted civil wars. For example, means many wars are fought between India and Pakistan after 1947. So this is a kind of nationalism that emerged afterwards for the sake of secret deals, manipulations, and cynical pursuit of private interests. It became an ethnic politics. We are talking about our own example. What happened in Israel and Palestine, what happened in other countries. The struggle between China and India is going on. Okay, between two armies of two nations, even civil wars took place. Now, what happened in Sri Lanka? It was a situation of civil war between Tamilians and Sinhala communities. The community, Sinhala community, the original community, indigenous community, which think that Sri Lanka is its own land, and Tamil people are the migrants. They are the outsiders. So, kind of civil war also broke. Civil war is a war fought within the country. So these things increase. It seemed by technologically much subtlety and originality that nations were not the determinate products of given sociological conditions. We have already understood it with reference to Renan. Nations are not the products of language, or race, or religion. So sociologically it was understood. The conditions made clear. They had been in Europe and everywhere else in the world, imagined into existence. So you have to understand, nations do not come into being because of language or because of what we call race or because of religion. They are imagined to exist. And here he refers to this particular term that he uses. It is a reference to Benedict Anderson's Imagined Community, Reflections on the Origin and Spread of Nationalism, which was published in the year 1985. So this kind of means the sociological technical conditions made it clear that nations are not the products of conditions like language or race or sociological conditions or religion. They were not only in Europe but everywhere imagined into existence. It is the opinion of Benedict Anderson. And he also Anderson described some of the major institutional forms through which this imagined community came to acquire concrete shape. Okay, so some of the institutional forms, the institutionalization started taking place, and there were some major forms, and these major forms helped, okay, the people to imagine that they are the nation. Now, which are they? Means this imagined existence got the concrete shape because of these institutional forms, especially the print capitalism. You have to understand the use of the term print capitalism, the print media, books, writing, etc. Okay, people started reading in those days. Now you should understand it in the context of the technical media now. Social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, all these can be considered as digital capitalism, instances of digital capitalism. And earlier, during the 90s and 80s and 90s, there was print capitalism. Means people started writing and they started giving shape to this imagined existence. Anderson argued that the historical experience of nationalism in Western Europe, in the Americas, North America and Latin America, and in Russia had supplied for all subsequent nationalisms. Means nationalism was the historical experience in Western Europe. For example, the French Revolution took place, the American Revolution took place, the Russian Revolution took place, and these kind of movements strengthened nationalism in these countries, and that supplied the idea of nationalism. He uses the term plural form of nationalism, a set of modular forms. A module is made up of different kind of what we call parts. Different elements are there. So this idea of nationalism in European countries, especially Western Europe, in the Americas and in Russia, supplied a kind of model for other nations in Asia, in Africa, etc., from which nationalist elites in Asia and Africa had chosen the ones they liked. They took the ideas from these particular countries and they started talking about nationalism in Asia and Africa. That's what Anderson thinks. He's talking about Anderson's ideas. Anderson's book has been, he thinks, Chatterjee thinks, the most influential in the last few years in generating new theoretical ideas on nationalism. Okay, so this book has been very much influential in the generation of new theoretical ideas on nationalism. Okay, so an influence is confined almost exclusively to academic writings. You have to understand this, you have to underline this influence was not known to common people who didn't write, who didn't know books. It was confined to academic writings. Therefore, that's what I'm saying. These intellectual people impose their ideas on others. So, contrary to the largely uninformed exoticization of nationalism in the popular media in the West, the theoretical tendency represented by Anderson certainly attempts to treat the phenomenon as part of the universal history of the modern world. Means he compares Anderson's theoretical representation of nationalism. He thinks that it is universal, this nationalism, is a kind of universal phenomenon in the modern world, and it is in contrast to the popular media in the West, in which nationalism is, a kind of uninformed exoticization, exoticization, exotic issue. Okay, that is being glorified, we can say. Exotic, you might be knowing. So this exoticization in the Western media was not known to people across the other countries, other continent, we can say. But Anderson takes it as a kind of uniform history, universal history. And after talking about Anderson's views, he comes to his objections. We shall talk about these objections in the next part of my lecture.